The next issue is shared miles. So we're all familiar with the paradigm of mass transit. Take a bus, I take a subway, Seattle's light rail. All of these things are great, but they're only great if you live close to a destination, a drop-off, a pickup and a drop-off. This is really difficult. Like in my case, I'd actually have to take 3 buses to get to Microsoft from my house, and it would take me about an hour and a half to get here. So it's great, and the vision is get lots of bus and lots of mass transit and get people off the road. But that model only works so well because lots of people like me don't have a direct line, and so the convenience trade-off does not work. So what do we do? Well, one thing we did as a corporation, we said, wait a second, we have lots of centers of population who are disconnected that can't really take mass transit effectively to get to work, but are actually on the road every day. So we actually rolled out last year about this time the concept of connector buses. The biggest problem is policy. It's behavior. It is not necessarily technology. I was listening to NPR on the way in this morning, and they talked about what's going to happen to the tax credits for clean energy. What would that mean to over 120,000 jobs that might be eliminated if the tax credits for solar and wind aren't renewed? That is not a technology problem. Right? Getting infrastructure in place to help subsidize the models for better battery power that you guys are working on, better plug-in hybrids, is not necessarily a technology problem. There are lots of technology problems, but that is not the only problem. So I think when we think about this, it's really about changing the paradigms in the way we think. About 6 months ago, I went to a governor's forum meeting. Actually, the governor from Michigan was there as well, and she was very interested in the concept of clean technology and clean energy. And on the panel, they said, we have to actually prepare for a world where it's a certain reality that coal will be the dominant energy source for our country well past the year 2050. Certain reality. And so I said, why is that the case? I said, imagine a world where clean energy is actually the substitute for coal, especially if we want to power up all these cars, while energy utility mix today provides better carbon footprints. Solar-based and wind-based energy actually provides a much better infrastructure. And I said, well, imagine a world where a clean technology that provides power can grow at an annual compounded rate of over 40% per year. For those of you who might be following the solar industry, you'll know that the solar industry grew at 42%, 43% annual compounded growth the last 2 years. And so you say, well, 2 years is interesting, but 15 years of 40% sustained growth, is that possible? And so my point on the panel was, I said, I actually know of an industry built on silicon, which grew at an annual compounded rate of over 40% for over 20 years. So why is it not possible in our energy sector? People have to be sort of willing to think about the paradigm differently and change their perspective. And so I think that we have the technology, we have certainly the intelligence, the creative capital, the creative innovation skills to make this happen. But the last piece is that it'll only happen if at conferences like this, in addition to listening to speeches and talking in breakout sessions, is that the players in this room connect, because cohesive action is required. Companies like Microsoft, like Toyota, like Better Place, like many of the companies in this room need to be acting in concert. So one of the things that my team does, and one of the things we're looking at, is how do we, not just in transportation, but in other sectors, work with the key industry players, even though those players will often compete at the end of the day, to drive change at scale. Because we cannot succeed in this quest if we do not work together to drive behavior change at a large scale. And so what you can expect to see from us is more and more, like working with Steve and his organization, Microsoft saying, look, we're not in the automotive industry. We're not in the utility market, but our software powers that stuff. And most of the people in those industries are our customers. So how do we get together and bridge that divide? And how do we actually create the software that will enable the infrastructure to empower this new vision in this new world? Because not only can we do it, at this point, I think it's pretty obvious that we have to go make this happen. So thank you, Steve, and thank you very much, everybody, for coming.
Excellent. Perfect. That's great. Thank you so much.